Everything is falling apart, and the fate of every character hangs by a single thread. Just when we thought episode 9 would give us answers, it only left us with more questions, more heartbreak, and more betrayal. But the trailer for episode 10, the season finale, promises that every secret will explode, every lie will be exposed, and every love will be tested in ways we could never imagine. If you thought the story couldn't get any more dangerous or emotional, think again, because the next chapter will change everything. Episode 9 of Blood of My Blood felt like a storm quietly brewing. It didn't explode outright, but the tension was there in every single scene. And while some of us expected more chaos in this episode, what we really got was a setup for the devastating finale. Let's start with Brian and Ellen. Their relationship has been under pressure for weeks, and we all knew something big was about to happen. Last episode, I thought Brian would be the one to step away, especially after Mrs. Fitz warned him that if he truly loved Ellen, he should let her go. But instead, it was Ellen who delivered the painful blow. She broke his heart in one of the most heartbreaking ways possible, telling him she didn't love him, even though we know that's not true. It's the classic, "I'll hurt you now to protect you later" trope. Romantic? Maybe. But overdone? Definitely. The weight of that moment was unbearable, especially when we saw Brian's reaction. Here's a man who has been beaten down not just by his enemies, but by his own father. That scene where his father hit him in front of everyone, mocked him, and crushed his spirit was brutal. Imagine being told you're worthless by the one person who should be lifting you up. And yet, despite all of that pain, Brian still carried himself with dignity. He still found a way to help Julia, even though his own world was crumbling. That tells us everything we need to know about Brian. He's the kind of man who doesn't give up, not on the people he loves, not even on himself. And if you notice the trailer for episode 10, you'll see that his fight for Ellen is far from over. But Brian isn't the only one facing impossible choices. Julia and Henry's storyline took a slower turn in episode 9, and I have to admit, it left me a little disappointed. After everything they've been through, I expected deeper conversations, especially about the one thing that no one can ignore: time travel. These two literally jumped through time, and yet the subject barely came up. Instead, their focus was only on their child and escaping the mess around them. Important, yes, but what about the bigger question? How did they get here, and how do they get back? That missing discussion feels intentional because we know it's going to come back and haunt them. Think about it. Julia and Henry don't realize yet that their ability to travel through time wasn't just luck. It was the jewels that allowed them to pass through the stones. And now, without those jewels, when they reach the stones at Inversus, they won't be able to leave. That's going to be their biggest obstacle, and it's one they don't even see coming. Which means episode 10 will be the moment where reality hits them. Their love and determination will be tested in ways they could never prepare for. Back to Ellen, Brian, and Colum. The moment Ellen broke things off with Brian, I knew something was wrong. And sure enough, Colum was already moving his pieces on the board. That clever little promise he made to Ellen, "I won't hurt him from this moment onward," wasn't protection at all. It was a trick. Because before that moment, Colum had already ordered Brian's death. The coldness of that move shows us just how ruthless he has become. Honestly, I barely recognize him anymore. He's far harsher and more calculating than the man we first knew. And with Dual by his side feeding him information, Brian's life is in constant danger. This sets the stage for episode 10 perfectly, because Brian has nowhere to run. His only option is to fight for Ellen, and if the trailer is any indication, that's exactly what he plans to do. The emotional punch of this episode came from the way it showed us broken relationships across the board. Ellen and Brian torn apart, Julia and Henry uncertain about their future, and even the loyalty between Myrta and Brian shaken to its core. But in the trailer, we see a glimpse of hope. Myrta standing by Brian, calling his love for Ellen the kind of love that belongs in legends. It's forgiveness, but it's also a declaration. It tells us that Brian isn't going into this battle alone. And that single detail makes episode 10 feel even bigger. Because when Brian and Myrta stand together, they're more than just two men. They're a force, Episode May 9th not have had the explosive drama we were waiting for, but every quiet betrayal, every painful goodbye, and every silent decision was laying the foundation for the storm to come. And that storm is episode 10. A wedding, an escape, a kidnapping, a chase. And above all, the promise that blood will be spilled. Everything we've seen so far has been leading to this one moment. The trailer for episode 10 doesn't waste a single second. From the very first frame, we know this finale is going to tear everything apart. The title itself, Something Borrowed, tells us where this story is heading, towards a wedding. But in this world, a wedding is never just about vows and celebration. It's about power, betrayal, and survival. And this time, it could mean bloodshed. The trailer opens with a surprise, scenes from the 20th century. None of us were expecting flashbacks, but suddenly we're taken back to the moments before Julia and Henry disappeared through the stones. We see them planning a small escape, boarding a train, waving goodbye. And there's Claire, young and innocent, watching them leave. This detail changes everything. It reminds us that their story isn't just happening in the past, it's woven into the future as well. And seeing Claire again brings a haunting reminder. Whatever happens to Julia and Henry will echo across generations, but the heart of this trailer belongs to Brian. We see him in a tense conversation with Mert. This is no ordinary exchange. It's the moment that defines Brian's character. Despite heartbreak, betrayal, and constant danger, he refuses to walk away. Instead, he chooses to fight for Ellen, even if it costs him his life. And Merta, once hurt by Brian's actions, finally recognizes the truth. He sees the depth of Brian's love, and with words that feel almost mythical, he tells Brian that this is the kind of love written about in legends. That single line sets the tone for the finale. It's not just about romance, it's about destiny. And with Merta by his side, Brian finally has the strength to defy everyone standing in his way. Meanwhile, Ellen is preparing for her wedding to Malcolm Grant. The camera lingers on her dress, an incredible blue gown, though far less radiant than the white one she once wore during Belton. The choice of color feels symbolic. Blue isn't the color of joy, it's the color of sorrow, of hesitation, of chains disguised as silk. Ellen might be walking down the aisle, but her heart is already elsewhere. And deep down, she knows the ceremony is nothing but a prison. The real question is, will she break free in time? The trailer then cuts to chaos. Julia is running, clutching William, her voice echoing as she screams for help. The desperation in her tone is chilling. We know she arranged a meeting point with Henry, but someone is following her. And that someone could be the same man who killed the minister, a shadow of Colum's cruelty, a predator unleashed to make sure Julia never finds her freedom. Yet there's another possibility. What if Julia is luring him into a trap? She and Henry could have planned this, turning their pursuer into the hunted. If that's true, episode 10 will give us one of the most dangerous and brilliant confrontations yet. The trailer also shows Malcolm's uncle declaring that there will be a price paid in blood. The weight of that statement cannot be ignored. A wedding day is supposed to mark new beginnings, but here it marks the beginning of violence. Who will pay that price? Will it be Brian for daring to steal the bride? Will it be Ellen for defying her family's expectations? Or will it be Malcolm himself, betrayed on the very day he was promised love? One thing is certain. This isn't a threat to be taken lightly. Blood will be spilled. And once it starts, there's no turning back. We see Ellen's shock, Malcolm's fury, and the frantic search that follows. Simon Fraser, Archbug, and other men are on horseback, hunting down Henry and Julia. Every shot of them tightening their grip reminds us that time is running out. And then there's Henry, crouched in hiding, waiting for Julia, unaware that betrayal might be circling closer than he thinks. Remember, the brothel worker who overheard his plans doesn't want him to leave. If she gives Simon the information he needs, Henry and Julia's escape could collapse before it even begins. Mrs. Fitz also appears in the trailer, making the sign of the cross. Her role in the finale remains uncertain. Is she praying because she knows Ellen is about to run, silently hoping for her freedom? Or is she realizing, in that exact moment, that Ellen is missing and begging God to protect them all from the wrath of the Grants? Either way, her presence adds to the tension, reminding us that not even the most faithful hearts can stop the chaos about to unfold. As the trailer builds to its climax, we see Brian fighting the men sent to kill him. Blow after blow. He refuses to fall. He's not fighting for himself. He's fighting for love, for Ellen, for the chance at a life they've both been denied. The intensity of these shots suggests that Brian will be pushed to his absolute limits. But with Merta at his side, here's the one thing he's been missing all season: an ally who truly believes in him. Together, they are unstoppable, but against Colum's orders and Malcolm's fury, even their strength might not be enough. The final images of the trailer leave us breathless. Ellen caught between duty and desire. Julia shouting into the night, desperate to reunite with Henry. And a voice reminding us of the stakes. Something borrowed, something blue, and something covered in blood. This isn't just the end of a season. It's the moment that will define every storyline going forward. Episode 10 promises to be more than just a finale. It's a collision of love and loyalty, of power and sacrifice. The wedding may begin with Vaz, but it will end in betrayal. The escape may begin with hope, but it will end in blood. And by the time the credits roll, no one will walk away unscathed.